Welcome to Level 2 Connecting Letters Part 2. In this video, we will be covering the second half of the Level 2 Connecting Letters. Last time we left off and we reached up until Ain and Ghain. And so now we will be talking a little bit about the letters in this section, starting with these two. With Ain and Ghain, I put a note because these two change quite dramatically. Ain and Ghain are often easily confused with the letters Ha and Kha when connected with other letters since they change form. So be careful in noting those differences. Ba plus Ain looks like this. The Ain becomes like this. Now, if you look down here with the Ba and Ain and Ba and Ha, you can see how somebody could confuse those two. How I explain it to my younger students is Ain almost looks like a small triangle, and it'll be much more compact and smaller, and Ha will be wide. It will retain the complete shape of a Ha, whereas Ain will be much smaller and almost like a triangle. So that's how I explain it to my students. This is only Ain's form when it's in the middle, Ain or Ghain, that is, because look here we have Kha and Ghain, the same thing happening here. It has a dot on it, that could get confused too. But anyways, Ain and Ghain look like this when they are in the middle or end of a word. When it's in the beginning, you can see a lot of the original Ain shape when it is not connected with anything else. So that is a note on that. Here you can see now what a Ghain or Ain will look like when they are in the middle of a word. And this is 4 letters. We have another worksheet for these letters to go ahead and circle them and recognize them. Fa, Qaf, and Gaff are pretty straightforward. The only thing I would notice and be careful of is Fa and Qaf, making sure we remember Fa has 1 dot, Qaf has 2 dots. Don't confuse them with each other because they can look very similar when they are in the middle of a word. The only thing I would say about Gaff has one of the most dramatic changes from what it looks like in single form versus when it's connected. Gaff changes radically. It has an entire, change in its form. It doesn't look very similar at all to what it looked like. So that is something to pay attention to. Here we have on this page, you can see how similar Fa and Qaf look like when they are in the middle, especially when they're very small and compact. They look very similar to each other. The only difference will be the dots, okay? And here we have Alif and Lam. These two were brought together because when they connect with each other, they have some very confusing, sometimes to a lot of students, the changes that occur between the two of them. So Alif and Lam when they are connected together, and Lam, Alif when they're connected together. It's very interesting to see. So Alif and Lam is very straightforward. It's just Alif, Lam, okay? But when it's Lam Alif, like I mentioned up here, this is a lot of times what you will be seeing. This is the Lam, the curve, and then this is the Alif brought up after it. And so it looks very different from what it looks like normally when it's when they're in single form. But this is Lam Alif, guys. So that is something to really pay attention to and familiarize yourself with. This is always Lam Alif. It will never be Alif Lam. And so that is that. The only other thing I would say is a lot of times students confuse the letter Lam and Alif because of what they look like when they connect. This is a Ha here, for example, and this is an Alif. What we can remind our students of is this is the curve. For Alif, it curves this way and up when it connects with the letter. Lam, on the other hand, connects this way, and the curve will be on the other side of it. So just note and notice which side the letter curves up, and that will help you with figuring out if it's a Lam or an Alif, okay? And another thing that's, good to notice is that Alif, when it is in the middle of a word, it only connects on one side. Lam will connect on both sides, so that's another distinguishing feature. For that, Gaff Alif. Now this is something that is so confusing sometimes that I went ahead and made a specific worksheet just for Gaff, Alif, and Lam because the 3 of these can get confusing for a lot of students. So these are forms in which Gaff Alif come together, Gaff Lam come together, Gaff Alif and Lam come together, Gaff Lam and Alif come together. So just take the time to look at the different forms of Gaff, Lam, and Alif when they are interchangeable with each other and really become familiar with them. This worksheet is dedicated just to Gaff, Alif, and Lam to really pay attention and drive home that exact point. And this is another worksheet that is just a regular worksheet as we saw before. Mim, Waw, and Hamza are pretty straightforward. The only thing I would say about Hamza is the note that was put here, which is that the letter Hamza needs a vowel. Vowels in Arabic are simply Alif, Waw, and Ya, okay? And we'll talk about that more later. But Hamza needs a letter to carry it. I always tell my younger students that Hamza is like a little baby. Such a tiny letter that it needs a vowel to carry it. It normally never comes alone. So you'll normally see Hamza on top of a Waw or a Ya or a Alif, as you can see here, but it's just going to be called a Hamza. We're not going to note that it's on top of a Waw or anything. It's just a Hamza. Just needed something to carry it, and that would be a vowel, but it is just a Hamza. No matter what it is on, it's only a Hamza. You're not going to include the Ya in there. So here when we say Ba Hamza, we're just going to say Ba Hamza. It's not Ba Hamza Ya or anything like that. Here we see Mim, Lam, Hamza, right? And this is straightforward here. Another thing is Mim. Mim changes a lot depending on if it's in the beginning, the middle, the end. Mim has a lot of forms. Normally it's very easy to recognize, but just kind of notice what Mim looks like as it changes. Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes students will get confused between Ain and Mim because of what Ain looks like when it's small and in the middle and like a little triangle. So that is something to pay attention to. And the last thing is the letter Ha and Da. These are pretty special just because, and we'll go into that a little bit more later, but these two are pretty interchangeable with each other. They come in a lot of different forms. When put together, I put it like this: Ha in the beginning, Ha in the middle, Ha at the end. And this is another small table to kind of really recognize that. The only thing I would say noteworthy here is noticing that Da will only come at the end of a word. You're never going to see this little Da come in the middle of a word. Okay, so Ha, Mim, and Ha are sometimes confused with each other, so pay attention to Mim, Ha, Da, little Da, small Da, whatever you want to call it. And here's that at the end, so that is something to note. This is pretty straightforward, and we have made it to the end of that. This is the section ending now on level 2. We have a small mixed review to really drive home, hey, do we remember all of our letters? Let's do a quick mixed review, and that will conclude this section, alhamdulillah.